You'd be hard-pressed to find another recipe that gives you as much bang for your buck as a big old pot of spaghetti and meat sauce. It's cheap, delicious, and incredibly easy. It's probably the simplest recipe that I make on a regular basis around here. And here's how I do it. It starts with ground beef. I've got roughly a pound of 80/20 ground chuck. That's 80% beef and 20% fat. Anything around that neighborhood will work, though I would advise against getting anything above 25% fat, as that would just be too greasy in the end. I'll throw my Dutch oven over medium-high heat, squirt in just a bit of olive oil to get things going. Then once it's hot, I'll throw in the ground beef and mash it into a thin layer to help maximize browning. You could also buy some premium quality meats such as sirloin or maybe beef short ribs and grind it up yourself. It's obviously more work, but it will provide superior flavor. Or just be lazy like me and buy pre-ground beef. After a few minutes of frying, we should have developed a nice layer of brown stuff underneath, so I'll give the beef a stir, trying to get more raw meat on the bottom of the pan. Let that cook for a few more minutes, and at this point you can see there's virtually no pink left, and the meat has almost cooked all the way through. Now this is the point where most people would stop, but with all this beef fat that we've rendered out, we have an opportunity to develop even more flavor by letting this meat continue to brown. Though first we'll have to boil off all the water that released from the beef. You can see it here. Most people think that's fat, but no, it's mostly water. After a few minutes, the water should be boiled off now. You'll know it when the boiling, gurgling sound is replaced by popping and fizzing. That means the beef is now frying in its own fat. Let the meat continue to fry for another 5 to 7 minutes or until it's looking about halfway browned. I would caution you on taking this step too far. If you try and get every piece of meat thoroughly brown, it can end up tasting a little burnt in the end. This much is fine, so now I'll move the beef over to one side and throw in the aromatics. That's one medium-sized onion that's been peeled and very finely diced. I prefer using a white onion when cooking Italian food, as well as however many garlic cloves your heart desires. Peel and give them a rough chop. An easy way to peel garlic is to smash the clove with the flat side of the knife. This helps to loosen the skin so that you can peel it right off. And if you smash the clove again before chopping, it helps to break the clove up, which means less work for you. Onion and garlic go in, and the pan is looking a little dry at this point, so I'll add in a little more olive oil to help our veggies cook. We're just looking to soften the onion and garlic here, so they just need a few minutes of gentle sautéing. Once the onion is looking translucent, I'll add a few tablespoons of tomato paste. This is optional, but it does help to add a little more concentrated tomato flavor to the sauce. Give that a stir and let it fry in the oil for a few minutes. This will also allow the sugars in the tomato paste to caramelize, and will also mellow out the harsh flavor of the raw paste. Once the tomato paste has turned a dark, rusty red color, we'll deglaze the pot with, maybe a quarter cup, 90 grams of wine. You can use red or white here. They both pair well with tomato. Give that a stir and be sure to scrape up all the fond. That's the brown bits stuck on the bottom of the pan. Now for the star of the show, tomatoes. Go with whatever brand you like. I'm using these Pastine ground tomatoes. Give that a stir, bring to a simmer, and now cover and let it cook slowly for as long as you're willing to give it. If I have the time, I'll let this sauce simmer all day. Fantastic flavor that way, but as little as 2 hours of cooking will still get you great results. After about 4 hours of simmering on low, our sauce is just about done. I'm going to throw in about 1.5 teaspoons, that's 1 gram each, of dried oregano and basil. Give that a stir, and now we just want to reduce it a little. You could do that on the stovetop, just remove the lid and let some of the water evaporate out. Or, for even better flavor, I'm going to throw this into my oven that's been preheated at 400F 205C and let it reduce uncovered for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. Finishing our sauce in a high heat oven will allow for extra caramelization, giving us a richer, darker sauce. While that reduces, we can get a pot of water boiling for our pasta. I'm going with the classic spaghetti here. I would suggest splurging a bit for the more expensive pasta brands. These pastas are typically cut using a bronze die, as opposed to cheap brands which use Teflon. Using a bronze die gives the pasta a rougher exterior, which significantly helps sauces and oil adhere to it. Also, don't forget to season your pasta water aggressively with salt. The pasta will absorb some of the salt as it cooks, which will help to season the noodle all the way through. Once the water is boiling, I'll throw in the spaghetti. Then once the submerged portion begins to soften, you can use a pair of tongs to gently maneuver the rest of the pasta into the water. While the pasta cooks, we'll check back on our sauce. As you can see, the top is nicely browned and the sauce has reduced enough for my liking, so I'll remove from the oven and give it one final seasoning. I'll throw in another pinch of salt, as well as a little pinch of sugar. I'm also going to squeeze in the juice from a quarter of a lemon. It'll help to brighten up our long stewed sauce. Also, lemon and tomato is a wildly underrated pairing. I'll give this sauce a taste, and I think it still needs some more salt, which I will be adding in the form of soy sauce. I know it sounds weird, but I've been increasingly adding soy sauce to most of my savory dishes. It's a great way of adding additional salt, as well as boosting the umami, basically the meatiness, of any given dish. Trust me, give it a try. You won't regret it. Back to the stove, and our pasta is looking ready. I'll just give it a taste to check the doneness. I'm shooting for al dente here. Another method for checking the doneness of your pasta is apparently to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. I don't know how many of you out there are doing this, but please stop. It's so stupid. Just eat it. It's edible. Why are we doing this? I'll drain the pasta over the sink, and now it's time to combine with our sauce. You can also save a little of the pasta water to help thin the sauce out just in case you over-reduced it, but this is looking perfect, so no need here. Now we can plate up our spagoot and of course finish with some fresh torn basil and a generous amount of freshly grated pecorino cheese. This ragu is deeply dark and roasty, balanced out with the sweetness and acidity of our tomatoes, and the fresh hit of basil really ties the whole dish together. You won't find a more delicious meal that's this easy to prepare, so give it a try yourself and let me know what you think. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can keep bringing you amazing recipes wrapped in mediocre video packaging. Until next time.